polluting, ecology-destroying presence should be excised from as many planets as physically possible, was matched only by their burning desire to replace the empire of man as the dominant political and military power of the explored galaxy. Their interest in Marduk was easily explainable by the star system's strategic location on the somewhat amorphous boundary between the two rival star nations, although precisely what at least two of their sub-light cruisers were doing there was rather more problematical. But whatever the exact details of their presence in the Marduk system might be, it was imperative that the heir tertiary not fall into their hands. To prevent that from happening, the entire crew of Roger's transport vessel, HMS Charles de Glopper, sacrificed their lives in a desperate, close-range action which destroyed both Saint cruisers in the system without ever revealing de Glopper's identity or the fact that Roger had been aboard. Just before the transport's final battle, the prince and his marine bodyguards, along with his valet and his chief of staff and one-time tutor, escaped undetected aboard de Glopper's assault shuttles to the planet. There they faced the formidable task of marching halfway around one of the most hostile, technically habitable planets ever claimed by the Empire, so that they might assault the spaceport and seize control of it. It was, in fact, as virtually all of them realized, an impossible mission. But the bronze barbarians were not simply Imperial Marines. They were the Empress's own, and, impossible or not, they did it. For 8 endless months, they fought their way across half a world of vicious carnivores, sweltering jungle, swamp, mountains, seas, and murderous barbarian armies. When their advanced weapons failed in the face of Marduk's voracious climate and ecology, they improvised new ones: swords, javelins, black powder rifles, and muzzle-loading artillery. They learned to build ships. They destroyed the most terrible nomadic army Marduk had ever seen, and then did the same thing to the cannibalistic empire of the Krath. At first, the horned, four-armed, cold-blooded, mucus-covered, 3-meter-tall natives of Marduk seriously underestimated the small bipedal visitors to their planet. Physically, humans closely resembled oversized basics, small, stupid, rabbit-like creatures routinely hunted by small children armed only with sticks. Those Mardukans unfortunate enough to get in the Empress's own's way, however, soon discovered that these basics were far more deadly than any predator their own world had ever produced. And along the way, the playboy prince discovered that he was, indeed, the heir of Miranda MacClintock, the first empress of man. At the beginning of that epic march across the face of Marduk, the 190 Marines of Bravo Company felt nothing but contempt for the worthless princeling whose protection was their responsibility. By its end, Bravo Company's 12 survivors would have fixed bayonets to charge hell itself at his back. And the same was true of the Mardukans, recruited into his service as the Basic's own. But having, against all odds, captured the spaceport and a Saint Special Operations ship which called upon it, the surviving bronze barbarians and the Basic's own faced a more daunting challenge still, for they discovered that the coup launched by Jackson Adula, Prince of Kellerman, had obviously succeeded. Unfortunately, no one else seemed to realize Empress Alexandra was being controlled by the same people who had murdered her children and her grandchildren. And, still worse, was the discovery that the notorious traitor, Prince Roger Ramius Sergei Alexander Chiang MacClintock, was being hunted by every member of the imperial military and police establishments as the perpetrator of the attack on his own family. Despite that, Arnold